Hello, dear ones. It's good to gather with you again today. Sometimes I wonder about the process of putting our faith in Jesus. Doesn't it seem that if we accept salvation in our lives, that should be an immediate transfer to heaven? We shouldn't have to stay here on earth and deal with the struggles and the challenges of earth anymore. Wouldn't it be great if it just was an automatic upgrade, transfer into our heavenly kingdom lives, and we could leave all of the struggles of earth behind? And yet that's not been God's plan. He chooses to leave us here on earth for his very, very wise purposes. And yet we know that we are called, once we become Christians and we're called by his name, that we are called to be in this world, but no longer of it. That we're called to be heavenly minded, motivated by the things of heaven rather than the things here on earth. So in some ways, it's now that we are in the world, but not of it. We're also of heaven, but not yet in it. And Romans 8 verse 19 tells us that the world around us, indeed all of creation, is waiting in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. The world around us is groaning and waiting, as it were, to see those who are already heavenly minded. They're groaning and waiting for heaven itself. And the people around us who don't know the Lord, they may not realize that's what they're looking for. They may not understand that they're seeking heaven, that they're waiting for heaven, but the things that they are longing for are reflective of the heavenly kingdom that we know and love. Just think about it. In these days, looking around at how people are responding to the crises that we're living through, the anger, the anxiety, the depression, the despair, all of the questions that are rising to the surface, and the things that we have access to because we have heavenly access, because we belong to heaven and we are of heaven. Just think, the world is longing for peace. And we have the peace that passes all understanding available to us through Jesus. The world is looking for comfort, and we know the God of all comfort. Indeed, he comforts us so that we are able to comfort others with the comfort that we have received. And joy. Think about the need for joy in these days, just for laughter, just for the ability to celebrate and have happiness in the midst of the struggle. We have the joy of the Lord, which actually gives us strength, another quality that the world is looking for. Ours is a God of justice in an age where there's a lot of injustice. And we are told that if any of us lacks wisdom, all we need to do is ask for it. I believe that part of God's purpose for leaving us here on earth to walk out our salvation in these days is that we would be able to display these heavenly qualities, these heavenly commodities, that we would put them on display so that others would be attracted to the kingdom of heaven and seek out the God that we serve. And I also believe that we have a responsibility to pray these heavenly resources into the places around us that are in need of them. There's a Christian mystic named Julian of Norwich who lived in the 1300s in England, and she set her entire life apart to be an agent of prayer for her world in those days. She lived through the Black Death and also severe political instability in her country. Sounds kind of familiar to some of the things we're living through at the moment. And she had a prayer cell where she lived that was attached to the wall of her church. And it had two windows in it. One window looked out over the city of Norwich, the city that she had given herself to in prayer, and the other looked out over the church itself. And she lived in this place in the middle, in between heaven and earth. And that's exactly where we find ourselves too. We live in the middle, in this place between the heaven not yet and the earth that we no longer are a part of. And we're called to this place, I believe, to represent. We know we've talked a lot about the fact that we get to represent God's kingdom here on earth. But I also believe there's a calling on us to represent the earth, to represent the lost and the needy before our God in heaven through our intercession and our prayers. And so I want to encourage us to activate this calling that's on us, to not waste the time that we've been given to remain here on earth, especially not to waste it with our groaning, our complaining, our worrying. Why are we still here, Lord? What is this all about? But actually to look around, take a moment to stop and look at the space where you are existing right now. Look beyond yourself and see what are the obvious needs around. Are there people nearby that are struggling, that are depressed, that are scared, that are lonely, that are lost? Are there businesses that are struggling? Are there solutions that are needed for the government? Whatever it is, whatever Holy Spirit catches your attention with, just to take a moment and see the world, see where the gaps are, where the need for heavenly resources, and then partner together with Holy Spirit to fill those gaps, to pray heavenly resource into those situations. Lord, I release your peace. Lord, I release your wisdom. I release your comfort, your joy. I release your solutions, your divine answers to our needs. And as we do that actively in prayer, to also make ourselves available as Holy Spirit leads us to be used to make that difference. Definitely, indeed, we are living out our salvation here on the earth. And we are here for a purpose, even in such times as this, not just to survive, not even just to thrive personally, but to be agents of transformation who bring heaven to earth. We are of the earth, we are of heaven, not yet in it, but we are here on earth to release heaven into the spheres around us. So I just encourage each of us, let's be used by God. Let's make this time count and be agents of transformation right where He's planted us. God bless you.